We're about 7 minutes away from 10 o'clock. It is time to talk technology. Mathew Dickerson, good morning to you.
Yeah, I've just about recovered from that lack of sleep yesterday morning. Nick up nice and early at 3 a.m. to watch the Worldwide Developer Conference.
That's, of course, Apple showing off, rather than the hardware, not new phones, not new tablets, but talking about some of their big software innovations.
Yeah, that's right. This is their developer conference, which is typically their software that they talk about there. So it's not normally any hardware announcements. There were a couple of little minor hardware announcements, but this was really about iOS software changes and the first ever virtual one, which was very strange because normally when they make their announcements, you expect an avid Apple audience to be jumping up and down and cheering, and there was nothing. It was actually a bit eerie watching it because there was just no background noise. I did wonder whether they'd put some fake background noise like the NRL does, but there was nothing of that.
Look, they are normally more of a concert feeling than anything else. A lot of stuff came out of it, but I think the one thing that's maybe raised a few people's eyebrows, and it's not a new technology, but it's something new Apple's pursuing, turning your mobile phone into your car keys.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things, Nick, that you'll get to the point, not that far away, where you'll only need your mobile phone to do a whole range of things. And there are some car manufacturers that you can use a specific app for that car and get access to your car and do things. And I know a car that I drive does exactly that. You can unlock it with your phone. You can share that access to other people. But this is being able to put it into the Apple ecosystem, so it won't rely on a car manufacturer creating that app. It'll be basically generic across a range of manufacturers. They did demonstrate in the keynote where they did it with a BMW, and so they're the first ones on board, but that'll just be the first of many, I would imagine, that will come on board. So you'll get to that point, a bit like Apple Pay. It won't matter what bank you're with, it won't matter what car you drive, you'll be able to use an Apple phone to unlock your car and give access. But the thing that's really nice about it is that you can actually share access. So I can share access to you, Nick, but I might not trust you, so I might only limit you to 80 kilometres an hour, for example. So you've got restrictions you can put on as well.
That is the one that intrigued me, that you can actually say, well, okay, this is going over to the P plater in the house, so I'm going to cap them at only 90 kilometres per hour just so they can't even, maybe on the back roads, get a bit of a lead foot when they think no one's looking.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think they didn't mention it, but I imagine you'd also be able to geotag that, so you'd be able to have it so that you'd get an alert if they went outside a certain area. So again, take that example, lending one of your kids your car and you know they're going to work and back home. You know they don't need to go outside a certain area, and then suddenly you get an alert when they're going up where the pub might be rather than where their work might be.
I did hear a rumour that you can also limit the volume on the stereo as well.
Yeah, there's a few things you can limit, and that is one of the things, and which makes sense. If you're going to have the kids share the car, then you don't want them going down the main street with the stereo blaring, giving you a bad reputation.
Mathew Dickerson, I want to talk about smartwatches for a bit because they seem to be all we talked about 3, 4, 5 years ago. Not a lot of interest in it these days, but sales aren't showing that. Sales are going up and up and up.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit more interest. The problem, I think, is that Apple has ruled the market. They've been certainly the dominant player, not quite 50% market share. So when you get one particular company that's just so dominant, maybe there's a little bit less discussion and a little bit less innovation occurring. But now it's actually quite good. There's a bit more competition. Apple still rule the roost at the moment, but Huawei is coming in pretty strong, and they're up into second place now for shipments in the first quarter this year. And shipments were up 12% over the previous year. So there's still some numbers there. Apple are about to hit 100 million sales across all of their smartwatches, which is quite incredible. But Huawei is up into number 2 for the first quarter. Samsung are number 3. They'd be pretty annoyed at being number 3. So I imagine they'll come up with some things to try and get back into that top spot or try and approach that top spot. Garmin are 4th, and Fitbit, which I kind of don't count Fitbit as a smartwatch, but I suppose they're kind of smart-ish. But they're up into number 5, but they have been dropping. Their market share has certainly dropped. Probably Huawei taking away a lot of that market share.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but I know as long as people are buying them, they'll keep iterating and we'll keep seeing people bringing out new products. Just quickly, cyber fraud. I was a little stunned to see just how prevalent it is that 1 in 5 people experienced cyber fraud last year.
Yeah, this is a new report that came out that just had a huge number of surveys, because one of the issues is most people don't report cyber fraud. So you don't get a real indication of it from the police, for example, or from some official stats. And this was a user report that basically went through and actually interviewed users. And so some of that cyber fraud occurred with viruses. So when you get a virus on your computer network, you don't go and ring the police and tell them about it. So it doesn't show up in those numbers. But certainly a lot of misuse of bank accounts, fraudulent bank account use, scam emails. 4.5% of people said they'd been a victim of a scam email, not received a scam email, been a victim of a scam email. And they're very clever, those scam emails. So it's very easy to fall victim to them. So yeah, 1 in 5 across the world last year were a victim of some form of cyber fraud, which is pretty scary. The FBI said that in America alone, about $3.5 billion it cost American people. So across the world, I don't have a number for across the world, but obviously a pretty scary number.
Yeah, $3.5 billion is a huge amount of money, and I was a little stunned to see that you noted that the UK cybercrime victims, £190,000 per day.
Per day. I know, that's pretty scary, isn't it? And people say, oh yes, someone must have been silly to fall for that, but they're very clever, the scammers. I wish they'd turn their incredible talents to solving COVID-19 or something, but they're very clever at making you think that this is legitimate, that what they're doing is legitimate. There's so many different ways they come up with to try and take money away from people that don't realise it's being taken away.
Yeah, it's remarkably sophisticated. It is, in its own way these days, an absolute industry. Mathew Dickerson, we'll talk again soon. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Nick.
Mathew Dickerson, our tech expert there.